Hey everybody, Haneman here. Welcome to this week's episode of Guitar Tone Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well this week. Today I grabbed my Eastman guitar and I wanted to talk to you guys about left hand technique. We've talked a few weeks ago on the show about hand health, and we talked a little bit about the left hand. And I want to talk a little bit more about the left hand. Now for you, if you're a left-handed player, it might be your right hand. I just so happen to be a left-handed player who plays right-handed, so in my case it is my left hand, but it's the fretting hand. And I want to talk about easing up the tension on your fretting hand. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, for many, many, many reasons. Number one, saving your hand. As we talked about a few weeks ago, easing up the tension on your fretting hand will make you play better, be able to play longer. It'll make you feel better, most importantly, which is extremely important when you're playing for long periods of time. You have to feel good. You have to feel great, ideally. And you don't want to have any tension in your wrist. So I've been consciously lightening up on my left hand over the past few years. I've been thinking about this a lot since about 2020, when I had lots of time to think and I wasn't doing very much for about a year, except teaching and making videos for you guys. But at that time, I was thinking a lot about my left hand and just ways to prolong my playing life, be able to play longer, enjoy it more, and it certainly worked out for me. But there's a couple of byproducts of lightening up your left hand. It gives you a lot more options in terms of articulation, and that's what I tried to demonstrate there in that kind of goofy intro for you guys. Let's just talk about, first of all, this concept that I mentioned to you guys a few weeks ago, which is the idea of when you play a chord, you want to place your fingers on the guitar and only apply as much pressure as you need to get the sound out. So start off with no pressure at all, apply a bit more, until you hear the note ring out. Okay, now for me, that's not very, very much pressure. And if you do that with the entire chord and being really conscious of your finger placement, you can actually get a lot of sustain without too much effort. Right? It doesn't take that much effort to press down on those strings. But the interesting thing is when we go for less pressure than we're supposed to have on the string. Listen to this. there's this interesting place that you can get to with even less tension, barely any tension. It's right between a mute and the note itself, where you actually hear the pitch, but like no sustain. And if you practice that enough, you can get some pretty cool effects. And I really like that. It reminds me a lot of what I like to call world music, a lot of certain African forms of music, a lot of reggae music. In reggae we hear a lot of... Let me just turn off that little reverb there. Let me turn off all the reverb. Okay? You hear a lot of this. Where we hear the pitch, but like no sustain. And a lot of people think that that's the right hand, that they have to do a lot of dampening with their right hand. But that's a lot of effort, right? Minimal effort. We want minimal effort here, which means just placing your fingers on those strings and really trying to get off the note quickly. So I'm placing my finger on the note and then removing all tension. So I'm kind of bouncing my hand like this on the fretboard. So what happens is your left hand, or your fretting hand, okay, becomes responsible for articulation. And I really like using that as a dynamic element in my playing. So, a contrast between this and this. Right? Minimum sustain and maximum sustain. It really is like adding dynamics to your music. And that's what I tried to do in that little intro. I was playing this thing up here. And I went down here and played normal chords with a normal amount of tension on my fingers. Right? So, and for me, again, that normal amount of tension is still pretty light. I'm trying to keep my touch light all the time, even when I'm shooting for maximum sustain, because I don't want to hurt myself. And, you can even do this with bar chords, which is the cool thing about it, actually. It works very well with bar chords. If I go to, let's say, a G major bar chord at the 3rd fret, I'm going to start by pressing down my index finger, and I'm just going to apply as much tension as I need on the strings that I need to apply the tension on. This is really important. When you play bar chords, you don't need to just flatten your finger over all the strings of the guitar and squeeze for dear life, right? It's not about that, right? You're not trying to squeeze the guitar like it owes you money, right? You're trying to just apply pressure on the strings that need pressure, right? So when I play this G major bar chord, standard grip, I'm only applying pressure on the low E string, and then the B and the high E. So you maybe can't see this, but my finger is kind of arched a little bit, right? So I'm actually not applying any pressure on the A, the D, or the G. Why? Well, it's because these other 3 fingers are taking care of those strings, right? So even my bar is minimal pressure. I'm not squeezing the neck of my guitar like crazy, right? And I can hold this chord and be very conscious not to move my fingers, and then get massive amounts of sustain, or, massive amounts of sustain, enough sustain that the chord rings out, right? Without any buzzing. And it's because I'm only applying the pressure where it's needed. The minute I apply too much pressure, I start to, make the guitar go out of tune. And then you get these sounds because you're pressing too hard, and then it's hard to maintain that amount of pressure, right? Now, again, the byproduct of this, though, is if I'm applying minimal tension, it means that my left hand can actually be responsible for the length of the note. So I can apply less tension and bounce my hand. So you guys can't see this, but what I'm doing is I'm lifting my fingers off the strings just enough to stop the sustain of the chord. This is a great thing to practice. And shoot for a very specific length of sustain. You can go for something kind of medium like this. A little bit less. Or even less. And the result is that you can really play around with that with a lot of practice. It's just one chord, but there's so much we can do. It gets a little goofy pretty quickly, but it's really cool. And if you really work at that, then you can start to combine other things with it. So what I'm doing is I'm bouncing my hand and I'm plucking different bass notes with my thumb, right? Low E, A, D, A, low E. It's a pattern. A, D, A, E. And listen to how much more interesting that sounds than this. See? Like there's a time and a place for that, of course, right? But it's really nice to get some percussive elements into your guitar playing, because that's what makes people want to dance when they hear you play, right? And that's what encourages you to want to tap your foot when you're playing and really get into it with your whole body, right? Which is very cool. And yeah, you know, it eventually leads to all the kind of potential percussive stuff you can do, right? It's so much fun. You know, and you guys know me, I love that kind of stuff. I love using the guitar in a percussive fashion, right? And it's all about the left hand and easing tension off on that left hand. So think about this. You make your life easier by pressing less with your fret hand, right? You make the music groovier too, by choosing when to press and not press as hard with that left hand as well. And therefore, you play some really cool musical stuff. To me, it's a win-win-win. So, I think that's about it for this week. I just thought I'd talk about that because, you know, I want you guys to really have long, illustrious, and fun playing careers on your guitars, even if that means, you know, you playing in your bedroom or your basement by yourself, or playing for your wife, or playing for your husband, or whoever it is, right? Playing for your kids. It's important to think about our hand health and also have some fun musical time while we're at it. So I hope that helps. Explore that this week. Please let me know what you thought about this video in the comment section down below, and we will see everybody again next Tuesday. Bye-bye.